I like nu metal. You guys should know this. Call me white all you want, you'll only make me love it more. However, while we as a whole tend to remember the big bands like Korn, Deftones, Limp Bizkit, System of a Down, etc., there's also another category of nu metal artists that I find to be really interesting. Bands and artists that were nu metal at some point. You see, nu metal was such a phenomenon that a lot of artists were switching up their sound. And unlike most people when I say that, I don't really mean in a bad way. I mean, more nu metal? Yeah, fucking please. Though within this category, there are two subcategories that I like to think about. Bands like Sepultura, Slayer, and Machine Head were bands that were known for other subgenres of metal, but at one point released records that have been considered nu metal. This also includes hip-hop acts like Cypress Hill and I'll Talk About You Fucking Later, who also went through a nu metal phase. I like to consider these things veteran nu metal records. If it's from an artist that is not consistently known for making nu metal, it probably fits here. But then the other category is what I like to call starter nu metal records. Bands that may have started out as nu metal, but their status as such nowadays can probably be argued. Some would say that Sevendust and Deftones would fit this bill. Sevendust and Deftones were never nu metal, they were alternative metal. And you can alternatively suck my cock. But weirdly enough, one of the first bands that comes to my mind when I think of the latter is Sugar Ray. Yes, that Sugar Ray.
Every morning there's a halo hanging from the corner of my girlfriend's four-post bed.
You might know them from their songs Every Morning and Fly, two of the most 90s and late 90s pop hits. But believe me when I tell you that those frosted tips that Mark McGrath had weren't just there for show, cause yeah, if you hadn't put it together by now, Sugar Ray started off as a nu metal band.
10 seconds down, remote, remote control. 10 seconds down, remote, remote control.
But you wanna know something else? They started out as a nu metal band when the genre barely existed at that point. I am dead serious. Sugar Ray's first record is one of the very first nu metal albums. I mean, think about it. This album was released on April 4th, 1995. At that time, the only true nu metal albums that were released were Korn's self-titled and POD's Snuff the Punk, which was not only super underground at the time, but also predates Korn's album by several months. And I mean, sure, Deftones' Adrenaline would be released in 95 as well as Power Man 5000's debut record, but Adrenaline would be released in October, roughly 5 months after Sugar Ray, so yeah, they were pretty ahead of the game when it comes to this subgenre. However, nowadays, they're not as nearly remembered as some other acts from the 90s, and when they are discussed, it's mainly talking about their big pop hits. And even on rare occasions when their nu metal era is brought up, they often don't get the recognition for being one of the first bands to even do it, even if it probably wasn't intentional. But leave it to me to remind people of shit they don't want to be reminded of. Let's get it crackin'. Sugar Ray was a band that started in Orange County, California in 1986. During the remaining years of the 80s, guitarist Rodney Shepherd and drummer Stan Frazier started a hardcore punk band called the Tories. They would eventually recruit bassist Murphy Cargiz and vocalist Mark McGrath, who would rename the band to Shrinky Dinks. However, upon eventually getting a record deal and signing to Atlantic Records, the band was forced to change the name due to copyright issues with the toy brand. After signing to Atlantic Records, they recorded and released their first album, Lemonade and Brownies. Do not ask me what that means. Truth be told, I have a bit of a nostalgic connection to this one, and it would be my pleasure to go through it track by track and talk about it. So let's actually finally start the actual video actually. Yeah, it doesn't really sound like the intro to a nu metal album, doesn't it? In fact, this is like cheery sax pop or whatever the fuck. It's a fun little intro track to get you hyped up for what's gonna happen next, accentuated by the whole group continuously shouting. Like, just hearing this, you aren't exactly gonna think it's the intro to one of the very first nu metal records. Bassist Murphy Cargiz actually has a YouTube channel where he has a series of videos in which he goes into detail on how each Sugar Ray track came to be, and during the first episode, he claimed that this song represented how happy they were to finally have a record deal. While I do think that is one of the reasons as to why the intro is the way it is, I also believe there's another reason. The element of surprise. This will become more apparent as we go along this record, but I think that Sugar Ray was a band that was meant to surprise you in some sense. I mean, given the poppy intro as well as this album cover, especially back in the 90s where music wasn't as easily accessible, you're basically meant to think that Sugar Ray was some kind of pop act. Foreshadowing is a literary device in which then you actually pop the CD in and get your eardrums torn to shreds by all those chuggy chugs. I don't exactly know if that's the case, but that's how I usually interpret this. Though I can only imagine the reaction of anyone who got fooled, because Oh yeah, this is the new metal we like to see. Especially given how the track starts. I think it's worth noting that not only was Sugar Ray one of the first new metal bands, but they were also one of the first to introduce the use of DJ scratching into the mix. They weren't the first, obviously, as POD's first record featured scratching on the song Run, but that's pretty fucking notable. The scratches themselves were done primarily by DJ Lethal, who, as most of you know, would eventually go on to join Limp Bizkit, meaning that this album was his first glimpse into new metal. But at the time, he was still in House of Pain, and Sugar Ray asked him to help out with this album because they like Jump Around. There is actually another DJ on this album by the name of DJ Homicide, who after this record will become Sugar Ray's official DJ, so that's pretty cool. Though aside from that, this song really opens the album well. The riffs are really strong on this song and the album as a whole. In fact, the one here has a really specific crunch to it and gives off vibes of something that you hear in like an extreme sports video game, you know, from the late 90s to early 2000s. You know, like that. Oh yeah, and Mark McGrath does his thing, and I do mean does his thing, because Mark's vocals are kinda all over the place, but in the best way possible, honestly. There's hints of singing, screaming, and of course rapping, but it's less focused on melody and more just raw aggression. Hell, there's even parts of the song where he shrieks like a goddamn banshee. In fact, despite the apparent new metalness of this record, you can definitely tell that there's a punk edge to the music as a whole, considering that the band actually did start out as a hardcore punk act inspired by the likes of Black Flag, made even more apparent by the Japanese bonus tracks of this album. I won't actually talk about these on their own, but two of the bonus tracks are Black Flag covers. I mean, yeah, one of them is by the Circle Jerks, but that was a group that was formed by Black Flag's vocalist, so yeah, I'm starting to think they liked Black Flag a little bit. Oh, and there's also a Ted Nugent cover, but let's not worry about that. But I think it's because of that punk edge to the music that really gives it a more fun sound compared to Korn's self-titled, which was a lot darker, both in sound and subject matter at certain points. So Sugar Ray were also ahead of the curve in making fun new metal, which Limp Bizkit would eventually be known for. But as for the song itself, I really like the crowd vocals added to it, both in the pre-chorus and the actual chorus. It really gives the feeling that the song was made for crowds at their live shows to sing along to, and the sheer rawness of the guitars helps to complement it. Honestly, everything about the song works in my opinion, from the shredding guitars to the unpolished vocals to the brilliant scratching in the bridge. It really blows off the gate in the best possible way.
He was the heavyweight king at the age of 21 from the streets of New York where they all called me.
This song sure is a departure from the last one. Whereas Rhyme Stealer was more of a get the crowd moving kind of opener, this one slows down by quite a bit and it's a lot more dark. I mean, listen to this guitar lick for example. Yeah, if the first two tracks didn't make it clear, this band can get kinda weird musically, but I think it's because of that off-the-wall weirdness that helps add to the vibe of the song, complemented by the very creepy bass line. But one of the things that helps contribute to the vibe of the song is definitely Mark's vocal performance on it. He decides to rap his verses in this whisper-like cadence with lyrics about Mike Tyson. You know, the guy who solves mysteries, and apparently likes losing to the England is my city guy. He honestly does a good job at it, though I will admit this line is kinda trash.
But he found his pot of gold, consequently came Gibbons. When they broke up, it was him that was given.
Don't you just love it when the words are rhymed
With the same fucking word?
But upon getting to the chorus, this song absolutely fucking explodes, with Mark just shouting his lungs out with the scratching from DJ Lethal helping to add more of a punch to it. I also really like the outro where Mark shouts, followed by the instrumentation speeding up slightly, as I think it's the perfect way to end the song. Overall, I really like Iron Mick.
What did you say?
And I gotta say, this has been a pretty new metal record so far. Okay, I think I've run this joke into the ground. Oh, fucking no. So, here's a little problem with this record. Every couple songs or so, the guys will decide to do these light pop/R&B little tunes, presumably to give a little breather from the heaviness of the rest of the record. And while I do think that's a fine idea in theory, I do think these songs go on for way longer than they really should. Originally, the plan was for these songs to be just little interludes on the album, but they eventually decided to stretch them out into full songs, and in this case, Oh boy, that is not a good thing, because Hold Your Eyes fucking sucks. To be clear, I know that Murphy, along with a few others, actually do like this song, and my intention isn't to make anyone feel bad for doing so. I mean, elitism is fucking stupid. That being said, however, I prefer being honest, and I just do not like this song in the least bit. The main thing I don't like about this song is the fact that both Mark and Rodney decide to sing lead vocals together, and their vocals are fucking awful. It's painfully apparent during the verses and especially during the bridge that they cannot pull this type of song off, at least at this point in their career. The painfully strained falsetto in that one part during the bridge where one of them tries their damnedest to sing higher than they actually can. Yeah, all of it just combines to make a song that really hurts to listen to. But what if the song was made bad on purpose, like, you know, as a parody of R&B or something? Ignoring how that wouldn't make the song sound any better, and how Murphy never really stated that to be the case in his video on the song, and even putting aside how even as a joke the song really isn't that funny, it very much overstays its welcome. Like, seriously, did it really have to be 3.5 minutes? Like, if they wanted the original plan and just made it a short little interlude, then I mean, I still wouldn't like it, but I can at least see the point of it is just like including it as a joke or something like that. But since that's not the case, well, you get shit. The only thing I would really say I like about the song is the bass line, which wasn't even played by Murphy in the album version, but it still sounds nice regardless, and even Murphy's recreation of it in his video sounds great. But still, the god-awful vocals overstayed our welcome big time, so this one is kind of a fucking dud. Actually, here's a random thing that I found out about this song during the production of this video. I stumbled upon a live performance of Sugar Ray at the 930 Club, which you've actually been seeing footage of so far, and they ended up playing this song, but weirdly enough, it sounds a lot better than the album version.
I've got what you want, and I've got what you need. When you see me come along, my baby, gonna give you some disease.
I mean, it still doesn't sound great or anything, but Mark actually sings within his range, and both him and Rodney have some cool harmonies.
Hold your breath and hold your eyes to my ear to super eyes and know me.
My guess is that Mark only really went with this whole shitty falsetto thing to try and be funny, but like I said, even as a joke, it still sounds like shit. It's whatever, I guess. Okay, thank fucking god, we're back to the new metal. Yeah, this song is okay. I like the groovy guitar riff and the bass line copying it, and the harmonies in the verses are pretty cool. Not to mention that guitar solo. However, like I said, this song is purely just okay. It does have some good elements, but I don't think it really goes past the point of just being average in my opinion. I don't know, maybe it would be better if it was a little faster, but as it is, it really doesn't have that much to go back to, with the chorus not really hitting as much as it probably should. Again, not a bad song at all, but there are songs on this record that I'll likely go back to that aren't this one, so bleh. Oh shit, I'm supposed to put a joke here. Thanks Sugar Ray for writing a song about Rivers Cuomo.
If I just yelled up on my behind.
Hey, so you know how I said that the last track could have been better if it was a little faster? Well, yeah, this one is much faster paced. In fact, it honestly sounds kind of thrash metal at points with how hard Rodney is shredding. This was actually one of the songs that the band made while they were known as Shrinking Inks, and I actually ended up finding the original version of the song, which is a lot slower and definitely shows their punk influence. But honestly, I prefer the version on the album. Maybe if you're into punk, the original would be up your alley, but personally I think the thrashy kind of thing they ended up doing with it really paid off, because it kicks a lot of ass, as this version is a lot more aggressive and packs more of a punch. Not only because of the faster and more staticky sounding riffs, but also because of the vocal performance. I will admit that the weird rapping with the filter over it at the beginning is a little weird, but the chorus hits like a fucking slap to the face. It's shot out with just the right amount of energy, and not to mention that one vocal line from Rodney near the end.
Big black woman.
Fucking beautiful, man. Yeah, I personally say that this song kicks a lot of ass.
The only good thing that's creeping in the city. The album's 1055, this one of mine.
Okay, first of fucking all, why did the band feel the need to jump scare me at the beginning of the video? Like seriously, you had me thinking I was gonna hear Hold Your Eyes again, how fucking dare you? Jokes aside though, this song is actually very important to Sugar Ray as a band, since this was apparently the first song from them that was ever played on the radio, and to be honest, I'd love to live in an era where you could hear nu metal era Ray on 69.5 or whatever the fuck. Definitely helps that, like some of the songs discussed before, this one rocks. The main riff to it was actually inspired by the Butthole Surfer song Who Was In My Room Last Night. And that song already has a cool fucking riff, but the way that Murphy put his own spin on it is absolutely on point. Both riffs were intended to be churning loops, but even with that in mind, they both do something completely unique, with Mean Machine really having a sense of groove to it. Not to mention that Mark is giving it his all on this song. He still has the gruffness that he had on the previous tracks, but the way he does it on this song is really energetic. Hell, he's doing such a good job that there's even a random line from someone in the studio saying, and then they put it in the actual fucking song. They didn't even need to do that, and yet they did. Fucking amazing. Oh, and while I haven't mentioned them a lot, Stan is actually doing a really good job as well. He's just pounding the fuck out of his set throughout the entire song. Hell, the song just starts with him kicking ass. Yeah, this song is very much a dude bro little tune about driving a fancy ass car, so much so that it was featured in a game called Road Rash 64, but it actually does a lot to make it a fucking banger. From the riffs to the drumming to Mark's excellent performance, this song fucking rips, and it makes me wish it was a lot bigger than it actually was. I mean, it was featured on Beavis and Butthead.
That sounds like Wipeout. I think this is butt Wipeout.
That was pretty cool. Oh yes, the nu metal train just keeps on rolling. The first thing I gotta say is that I really like the riff and bass line to this song. It has a really good groove and works really well. And as usual, the scratching is on fucking point. Plus the chorus to this song is so fucking powerful. Like, damn, that scream hits like a fucking truck, and funnily enough, that scream didn't actually come from anyone in the band itself. The shouts during the chorus were done by the album's producer, Mick G. Some of you might not know that name offhand, but the dude was actually a pretty big name in the music video world, since he directed the ones for songs like The Offspring's Why Don't You Get a Job and Pretty Fly for a White Guy, Sublime Santeria, and ironically enough, Korn's first 3 music videos, those being the ones for Blind, Chutes and Ladders, and Clown. So yeah, the dude has some notoriety. And weirdly enough, the reason he's even a part of this record anyway is because him and Mark were actually friends as kids after meeting at a surf shop. Hell, they even tried starting a band together called the Q-Tips, however you can probably tell that it never really went anywhere, and he admittedly doesn't look too fondly upon it, which makes his performance on this song really cool if you think about it. Murphy even mentions in his video on the song that Mick G's shout was only supposed to show what Mark should have done with his part, but the band liked his take so much that they ended up using it. That's pretty fucking cool. So yeah, there's things to like about this song, and I do consider it a good one overall. However, I think there's one thing that's keeping it from being one of the best songs on this record, and that's the repetition during the verses. Now here I'm not talking about like repeating words or something like that, like this isn't a Gucci Gang type of situation, but more of the missed opportunity in regards to the structure of the verses. What do I mean? Well, the verses start off with a call and response thing by listing cities. And then Mark starts rapping.
I'm like the real world. I start in New York, I'm in LA, then Frisco.
And then he repeats the same line again.
I'm like the real world. I start in New York, I'm in LA, then Frisco.
And then he starts repeating, "You're gonna miss out."
And now you're gonna miss out, gonna miss out, miss out, gonna miss out. But yeah, you're gonna miss out.
And that's how the verses go. It's not horrible or anything. I would have just preferred if Mark actually rapped entire verses on this track. I don't know, maybe the whole idea is that it really doesn't have a whole lot of lyrics because it's supposed to be a party song, as the title of the track suggests. I'll admit, it's kind of just a me issue, but I thought I'd mention it. It's still a good song regardless, and I never really feel the need to skip it when re-listening to this record.
10 seconds down, remote, remote control. 10 seconds down, remote, remote control.
Yeah, if nothing else about this album convinced you that it was nu metal, somehow, the style of this music video should say it all right there. I mean, not only was it directed by, again, the same guy who directed Korn's first 3 videos, but the lighting and everything about it just screams nu metal. Anyways, 10 seconds down. I think this one's a banger as well. Just like Iron Mike, it sounds very weird. Like, it's kind of hard to describe, but you'll probably see once I show you this main riff. The long strumming of just one note would normally be a negative, but in Sugar Ray's case, I think they pull it off really well and really gives the vibe of like uneasiness in this song. Plus I like the way that Mark delivers his vocals, with him just kinda semi-quasi rapping, and some of the lines, particularly the first one, really bounce off the riffs well. I don't know, that's all I really have to say about the song. Like, there's not a whole lot I can say about it other than the fact that I like it, and if you like the previous weirdness on this record, then you'll probably enjoy it too. You know, I kind of forgot that they were doing these given the amount of rock tracks in a row, but this one is better than Hold Your Eyes, thankfully. One massive improvement over that song is the fact that the beat is a lot fucking better this time around, especially with that bass line from Murphy that slaps like absolute hell. And of course, the vocals have drastically improved. Most of them are done within the ranges of their voices, so we don't have that horrible sounding squawking like on Hold Your Eyes. It's very natural in this song, and when they do attempt some falsetto, it really doesn't sound half bad. Not to mention the female vocals courtesy of Janine Harris, who absolutely kills her performance on this song. Yeah, this one's pretty alright, albeit definitely longer than it should be, though that's the case with all the pop interludes on this record. Like, it's cool to see them step out of their element, and it definitely gives us a break from the heaviness of this record, but there isn't exactly a whole lot in these songs that really warrant them going past just being an interlude, you know what I mean? Also, side note, apparently Danzig himself heard that Sugar Ray named the song after him, and his response was just,
Sugar Ray can suck my dick.
so what you're saying is that you want to be sugar gay?
Danzig came out.
This track is just a little skit of the guys in Sugar Ray ordering from Del Taco when the drive-thru guy gets it completely wrong. It's a funny little thing to put on the record, not really one that's funny enough to warrant repeated listens, but Mark's weird voice as the drive-thru guy is kinda entertaining. Plus there's a part where he just asks if they want a Twinkie instead, which was kinda funny.
Yeah, I got all the money. Okay, can you read that back, please?
Yes. Would you like two Big Macs, quarter pounder with cheese, or
Did not say hamburger.
Would you like a Twinkie?
Oh, and the beat that plays throughout the skit is really fucking good and makes me wish it was done for an actual song. In fact, that was initially the plan. Some engineer guy by the name of Jason Roberts, who has worked with Cypress Hill before, is apparently behind it, and the guys in Sugar Ray wanted it to be on the record, but couldn't quite make it into a song, so they opted in on just making it background music for their skit. On my first few listens, I thought the distorted bass line was done by Murphy or even Rodney, but I guess it wasn't. Unlike the other rock songs on this record, this one is a lot more light in both music and tone. In fact, I wouldn't even really say that this one is nu metal. While the other songs were down-tuned, this one is the only one that's in regular tuning, really making it sound different from the previous tracks. And aside from some record scratching at the beginning, this one is sonically more on the side of funk rock, and they absolutely bring it with this one. The riff is bouncy as hell, and that solo near the end done by Rodney is particularly excellent. But the main star of the show is clearly Mark, because he goes absolutely fucking bonkers with his vocals. Like, damn, it sounds like he's getting his balls cut off, but damn does it sound good when he does so. Like, he's so full of fucking energy when he shouts on this track. On my first listen, I was actually put off by the over-the-top vocals, but listening to it over and over again made me understand it more. It's a loud, in-your-face, and off-the-wall kind of style, but it's one that works in my opinion. Yeah, this one's kind of weird, very bonkers, and honestly very meat-headed, so I don't think it will appeal to everyone, but hey, I like it. And we're back to the poppy interludes. this one's just okay. If Hold Your Eyes was the bad one and Danzig Needs a Hug was the better one, this one is more middle of the road than anything. There are some good aspects to it, like that very 70s or 80s sounding synthline throughout the track, which, by the way, is directly lifted from a song by jazz and soul musician Michael Henderson called Let Me Love You. So yeah, Sugar Ray just kinda do their thing over it. Again, it's not bad at all, and the vocals are pretty decent for the most part, it's just kinda whatever. And we end off this record with a fucking banger. Seriously, this is probably my favorite song on the album, honestly. I know I've been primarily bringing up the riffs first, but that's because Rodney and Murphy honestly gave it their all on this record. And yes, I did say Murphy because he actually did write some of the guitar parts while Rodney performed them, but the riff on this song in particular, fucking sick as hell. The way it slowly drags makes it sound heavy as fuck. Like seriously, I don't know how anyone can resist headbanging to this. And Mark does his thing, obviously, rapping over the song, but in this really aggressive tone that only gets more aggressive as it goes along.
Whatever happened to girls that were freaking? Everybody was streaking. It was no big thing, man. And if I had the choice, I'd bring it all back. Everybody's talking about me, gonna blow my stack.
It's so visceral and ugly and weird, but I think that's what adds to the heaviness. Hell, by the end of the track, he starts sounding fucking crazy. I also gotta bring attention to this line. I did not think that Mark was gonna reference that MC Hammer video with him waving his dick all over the place. Yes, that exists. But there is also another aspect of this track that I think is really cool. This sample. So for those of you who don't know, this short bit is sampled from Richie Dagger's Crime by the Germs, a very influential punk act that the guys in Sugar Ray were definitely fans of. Hell, I think part of the reason why Mark's voice is so ugly on this record is because lead singer Darby Crash himself also had a bit of an ugly sounding voice that manages to work regardless. By the fucking way, while researching this video, I stumbled upon a Germs song called Lexicon Devil. But little did I know that I actually already knew the song because one of my inspirations, Crash Thompson, used it as his intro music back in the day. That's fucking wild. But yeah, the sample just fits so well into the song. Most of what's sampled is just the beginning of it, but the way it's integrated into the song is pretty seamless. I also like how the muted strums at the beginning are scratched, taking a sort of inconsequential part of the original and turning it into a part of the rhythm, which I think is really cool. Though there is one problem I have with this song, and that's the solo. Yeah, this is very clearly just noise, Rodney. But other than that, I think this is an absolutely amazing closing track. Best song on the album, in my opinion. And that was Lemonade and Brown. What the hell? Okay, there's a hand track on this album called One Brave Cowboy. It's just an acoustic little ditty. It's whatever. But yeah, that was Lemonade and Brownies. What do I personally think of this record? I think it's a lot of fun, honestly. I'll admit, it's probably not the easiest record to get into if you're an outsider to nu metal. But what it does have is just really fun and very interesting, especially for those who only really know Sugar Ray from what they would eventually become. Everyone in the band gave it their all, and if any of the music I play in this video sounds up your alley, I would highly recommend checking it out. Though, despite how much I like this record, back then, people really didn't pay too much mind. I mean, it wasn't completely invisible, some of their songs were featured in films and TV shows like Escape from LA, and the previously mentioned Beavis and Butthead, and the band would receive some moderate success, especially in Europe, However, the album underperformed in terms of sales, only selling around 48k copies at the time. Better be lucky this was during the 90s is what I'll say. Due to the underperformance of this record, Atlantic actually considered dropping the band. However, they had a very strict clause in their contract that allowed them to release a second album, regardless of how the first one did. And thus, Sugar Ray stayed on Atlantic for the release of their sophomore album, Floored, which I'm definitely gonna have to talk about in another video at some point. Don't rush me, I have a bunch of ideas that I'm too lazy to get off the fucking ground. Anyways, this has been NBA Scrub Boy, and if you love music, don't be afraid to say why.
Don't fuck with it!